Hey everybody, it's me, Root Beer, and I'm gonna be in Pasadena this weekend, so we're gonna do all of the reveals in real time because we're not doing stream. So for the Tuesday stream, we got reveals for all of the new Youth Burk cards, so let's go over them, shall we? So first up, we got Unsullied Eyes Youth, new starter. Then we have Squire of Spears Streaks Youth. So when it's rode upon by the Grade 2 Youth, Soul Blast 1, check top 5. Either add it to your hand if it's Youth Burk or call it to Rearguard Circle if it's a grade 2 or less. Basically the same as the old one, except you're searching 5 instead of 3. Then we have Sorrowful Ardent Light Youth. Jesus Christ, I can talk. When this unit is rode upon by a unit with Revoldress, Energy Blast 3, choose a grade 2 or greater unit from your drop zone, put it into your hand. So, again, basically the old grade 2, they just swapped the cost from Counter Blast to Energy Blast. Then we have Youth Burk Skyfall Arms Rebuild. So it has the Revoldress ability, of course, so you can either Revol form from the hand for free, or you can Counterblast one to get a Revol form from Drop Zone instead. And then when it's rode upon during the battle phase, you can discard a card from hand to make your Vanguard's drive 1, since it gets drive -2, and that means it also doesn't work with Sequana, the old card that gave it 1 drive. And then when it would ride a grade 3 or card with Revolve form, bind it instead of putting it into the soul. So we'll kind of see what the payoff for that is in a little bit. Then for the support cards, we have Running Beast Fang Svrind. So if your bind zone has a Revolve form, it can intercept and intercept from the back row, and 2k power. We have Knight of Rebuking Dowdelic, or this card's Derek Dow. So when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, Counterblast 1, look at the top 5, add a Youth Burk to your hand, shuffle, and then on attack, if you have a Youth Burk Vanguard that's grade 3 or greater, plus 5k, not once per turn. So basically, this is just like Schneisel, except instead of getting the 5k attached to the search skill, it just has it all the time now. Next, we have Armor Breaking Knight Doringen. So during your turn, if your bind zone has a Revolve form, it gets 5k. Then when it's stood by the ability of a Youth Burk, Counterblast 1, draw a card, and until end of turn, when your opponent will call cards from hand to guard circle for the battle that it attacks, they have to call 2 or more at the same time. And finally, we have Youth Burk Revolve Form Exist. So when it's placed by the Revoldress ability, you can Energy Blast 3 to stand one of your rear guards, and all of your front row units get power plus 10,000. Or if the bind zone has a Revolve form, it gets 20 instead of 10. And then if your bind zone has a card with the same name as him, also gets a critical. And then at the end of the turn, you choose a Revoldress card and ride it as rest. So on principle, I really do not like Exist. You know, I've made it clear with, like, Imperio, I don't like it when a deck can do this big, powerful endgame combo, turn 3 going first with no restrictions. And especially because the new Youth Burk energy blasts instead of counter blasting, so it's like your opponent can't realistically damage deny you. It opens you up to using the counter blast for other things, like so many of the powerful Keter generics counter blast, right? Like Asperonia, Valtrosa, Wisdom, all of those are counter blasts, and now you're kind of free to use those cards in Youth Burk. And of course, the ability of rebuild to Revoldress from the drop zone. That means you can still kind of use the old support like Corina, where it's designed to like search out and put a Revol form into your soul. So you can like put Exist into your soul blast it out with anything really. Another thing that this deck kind of synergizes with is, of course, the new Pride Cyclers. So you can like Corina, put Exist into the soul, and then use the Pride Cycler, soul blast it out, and you get a free 10k shield that also kind of lets you do some early gaming, and late game it's a 15k body, which combined with the extreme power gain you get from Exist just makes a really powerful column. So I really don't like any of that. That being said, it also looks like this deck does not have a lot in the way of card advantage just inherently. Like, Rebuild loses the ability to Superior Call that the old Youth Burk has, and among the new support, only one of them actually draws you anything. Like, searching the Revolve form is nice and all, but you don't actually get shield from it, so, you kind of need some blind drawing just to try and find defensive cards, and it doesn't seem like you're going to be doing it all that much. Like I said, there are a plethora of powerful generics like Wisdom, Teeth Fault, Sergowon that can kind of help boost up your card advantage. I'm just not entirely sure if that's enough to make the deck survivable in the long term, which I guess is the upside to this deck, I'm not sure I want to go through like multiple turns of them having 20k into the front row. That just sounds miserable. I guess there is also the possibility, if you're going first, if you want to try and play a longer game, that maybe you could go like Tempest and then the turn afterwards go into Exist, because quite frankly, the 20k to your front row when you get 5 attacks is probably more important than the critical, but I guess we will see. So yeah, not a huge fan of these cards. I really wish it would just be like, okay, on play, you Energy Blast 3. Then, like, if your Vanguard, or if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, then you get the 10k to the front row, and just have it not scale. Just make it so, like, okay, if you have a Revolt form in the bind zone, then it gets a crit. So that way, you can kind of get a similar effect of this, where it's just sort of a more well-rounded Fullblast, instead of just like, okay, here's like a crazy OTK card that, like, when you go to turn 4, it's going to make 5 attacks, they're all going to be 50k, the Vanguard has a crit, and then probably they'll end with like 5 cards in their hand and die if they didn't beat you right then and there. I think in that sense it's going to live in a similar place to decks like Blangmire or like the Bat that, have this incredible OTK ability, but don't do it consistently enough to be top tier meta. And especially with the performance we've seen from Bavsagra in set 7, I'm not sure if this deck beats it all that well. Like, yes, you can push really hard, but it doesn't stand a good chance against Bavsagra with a consistent board wipe. Like, that seems like a very big factor in that particular matchup, so we'll see how it shakes out. But at the moment, I am predicting a sort of like Blangmire, Elid Glemma, Glory Maelstrom kind of future for this, where it is really powerful when it does its one thing, but how sustainable that one thing is kind of remains to be seen. So let me know what you think about this new Youth Burk in the comments. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye!